I hope that you are well and also hope that you are having a good day so far. Today we'll be doing our grade 7 English lesson on sentence creations. And before we start with our lesson on sentence creations, we're going to log into aplusstudents.ca. Once we've logged on to aplusstudents.ca with our username and as well as our password, and then we're going to select the subject of language arts. Grade 7. And then we're going to scroll down up until we get to our chapter of sentence creation. So we are going to our chapter. So we're doing our chapter of sentence creations, English language arts, grade 7. And the lessons that we're going to be focusing on under the chapter of sentence creation is to create a sentence based on the model. All right. So when it comes to sentence creations, right? Sentence creation and creating sentences based on a model. So to make your writing more interesting, you need to try to use a mix of different kinds of sentences. So you can even get ideas for new kinds of sentences by imitating sentences that you read. Right? So basically, to make your writing more interesting, try to use a mix of different kinds of sentences. And you can get ideas for new kinds of sentences by imitating sentences that you read. And in order for you to imitate a model sentence, you need to first look at the form or its pattern of the specific sentence. Right? So in order for you to imitate the model sentence, you need to first look at the form or the pattern of the sentence. You need to ask yourself, you need to ask yourself, what sort of words, phrases, and clauses the sentence uses? and what order they are in. So we ask ourselves what sort of words, phrases, and clauses the sentences uses and what order they are in. And then we create a new sentence following the same pattern. So to basically make your writing more interesting, try to use a mix of different kinds of sentences. And you can even get ideas for new kinds of sentences by imitating sentences that you read. And when we imitate sentences that we read, in order for you to imitate a model sentence, you need to first look at its form or the pattern. You need to ask yourself, ask sort of words, phrases, and clauses the sentence uses and what order they are in. And then you create a new sentence following the same pattern. All right. And if we're going to look at, let's say, a sentence, right? So if we have a model sentence, here we have our model sentence. So this is our model sentence. So our model sentence is, when I stepped out into the bright sunlight from the darkness of the movie house, I had only two things on my mind: Paul Newman and a ride home. So when I stepped out into the bright sunlight from the darkness of the movie house, I only had two things in my mind or on my mind, which is Paul Newman and a ride home. And that is from S.E. Hinton, The Outsiders, 1967. And then if we create a new sentence, right? If we create a new sentence based on our model sentence, and then it says, as long as our secret hideout stayed hidden from other people in the deep, deserted forest, we would have our lifelong dream, no parents, and plenty of beef jerky. And if you look at both of these sentences, right? Two different sentences. However, both of these sentences, they use a subordinating conjunction, which is when as well as. And they use it to introduce the first clause, when as well as. So with a model sentence, it says, when I stepped into the bright sunlight from the darkness of the movie house, I had only two things on my mind, which is Paul Newman and a ride home. And then we have a new sentence, right? That says, as long as our secret hideout stayed hidden from other people in the deep, deserted forest, we would have our lifelong dream: no parents and plenty of beef jerky. And we say that both of these sentences, they use a subordinating conjunction, which is when and which is used as, and that is basically to start and to introduce the first clause. right? And when it comes to our lessons, right, we are doing our tutorial lesson on aplusstudents.ca, right? So we're going to aplusstudents.ca, and that is where we're going to continue with our lesson as to create a sentence based on the model under our chapter of sentence creation. All right, so we're going to create a sentence based on the model. All right, so we see that to make writing more interesting, you need to try and use a mix of different kinds of sentences. You can get ideas for new kinds of sentences by imitating sentences that you read. And when you imitate, right, so to imitate a model sentence, first look at its form or pattern and ask what sort of words, phrases, and clauses the sentence use and what order they are in. Then create a new sentence following the same pattern. Right? So we see that we need, when imitating a model sentence, we need to first look at the form or the pattern, ask what sorts of words, phrases, and clauses the sentence uses, and what order they are in. And then we create a new sentence following the same pattern. Right? And if we look at the sentence, right, that says, when I stepped out into the bright sunlight from the darkness of the movie house, I had only two things in mind: Paul Newman and a ride home. Right? So with a long sentence, it says, as long as our secret hideout is safe, a secret hideout stayed hidden from other people in the deep, deserted forest, we would have our lifetime dream. No parents, and plenty of jerky. And like we said, both of these sentences, it starts with a subordinating conjunction, which is when and which is as. All right. So we see that both of these sentences, they use a subordinating conjunction, which is when as well as to introduce the first clause of that sentence. But now if we look at both of these sentences, right, which is when I stepped into the bright sunlight from the darkness of the movie house, I had only two things in my mind. And the other one says, as long as our secret hideout stayed hidden from other people in the deep, deserted forest, we would have a lifelong dream, no parents, and plenty of beef jerky. So we said that both of the sentences start with a subordinating conjunction to introduce the sentences or the clauses. And both of the sentences, they also use prepositional phrases. All right. So for example, since both of our sentences they use prepositional phrases, right? And our prepositional phrases are into. So for example, the first sentence it says into the bright light, from the darkness of the movie house, from other people, as well as in the deep. Deserted forest even. And to modify parts of the first clause. So we see that both of our sentences they use prepositional phrases, which is into the bright sunlight, from the darkness of the movie house, and from other people, and in the deep deserted forest. And in order to modify the parts of the first clause, and it's basically to modify the first part. All right. So we said both of these sentences they use a colon, right? And the colon is introduced the final noun phrase, saying Paul Newman and a ride home, as well as no parents and plenty of beef jerky. It's like emphasis as to the excitement. Right? So we say that both of the sentences they use a colon to introduce the final noun phrase, which is Paul Newman and a ride home, as well as no pressure or no parents and plenty of beef jerky. All right. If we look at our other sentences, right? Because remember, it's about creating sentences. Here it says, read the model sentence from Pearl S. Bucks the Good Earth. It says, the shadowy figure of the old man appeared in the doorway, holding his unbuttoned garments about him. So the shadow figure of the old man appeared in the doorway, holding his unbuttoned garments about him. So the shadowy figure of the old man appeared in the doorway, holding his unbuttoned garment about him. And if we use the words and the phrases to create a new sentence that matches that model sentence from Pearl S, and then we're going to use these words that we're going to put in order. It says sparkled on the sandstone, just beside it, the steady trickle of an abandoned hose, mocking the thirsty door flower bed. So if we put that in order, we can start with the steady trickle of an abandoned hose. We can say sparkled on the sandstone, mocking the thirsty flower bed just beside it. Full stop. So we are going to say the steady trickle of an abandoned hose or house, sparkled on the sandstone, mocking the thirsty flower bed just beside it. All right. So we basically put that in order, and when we put it in order, we say that the steady trickle of an abandoned hose sparkles on the sandstone, mocking the first flower bed just beside it. Right? Right? So basically, we have a model word, a model sentence, right? It's a sentence where it is being used for, let's say, it's a sentence from a certain book or a certain read. And then we have words and phrases that creates a new sentence, but it matches the model verb, model sentence. All right. So we said that we have a model sentence and then we have a new sentence, right? And whatever that it creates. So when we created a new sentence, right? It says that if we look closely at the model sentence as well as our new sentence, then if we compare these two sentences in our model sentence, it says the shadowy figure of an old man appeared in the doorway, holding his unbuttoned garments about him. So when it comes to our new sentence as well as our model sentence, we said our model sentence, the shadowy figure of an old man appear in the doorway, holding his unbuttoned garments about him. And when it comes to us matching the new sentence, then it says the steady trickle of an abandoned hose sparkled on the sandstone, mocking the thirst flower bed just beside it. All right. So now we're going on. It says we need to read the model verb. So basically, we have a model verb and then we have a new word, new sentence, and then we basically do the comparisons of the two based on the sentences, all right? Not even necessarily comparisons, but yeah. As you look at what stands out specifically within these sentences, all right? So our model sentence is McCann went briskly to and fro among the students, talking rapidly, answering rebuffs, and leading one after another to his table. So Miss McCann went briskly to and fro among the students, talking rapidly, answering rebuffs, and leading one after the other to the table. And if we look at the next sentence, the new sentence that we need to jumble up, right, in order to get the completed sentence. We're going to start with I raced. So I can say I raced from room to room in my apartment, mumbling angry and packing my things, and then slamming doors behind me in fury. And if we look at both of our sentences, right, it says McCann went briskly to and fro among the students, rapidly talking, answering rebuffs, and leading one after another to the table. So we can say, I raced from room to room in my apartment, mumbling angrily, packing my things, and slamming doors behind me in fury. So we have our model verb, right? And then we have, of course, our new sentence or the new sentence as well as the model sentence. And if we look at the two sentences and compare it, right? The first sentence speaks about going to and from among the students, and the second sentence talks about from room to room in my apartment. So that is how they are moving, right? Room to room, learner by learner. Right? So if we compare these ones, right, we see that the two that is basically similar in meaning, it's the to and from among the students, as well as from the new sentence, from room to room in my apartment. All right. Now let's go to our test. Right? So basically, the whole aim of a model sentence as well as a new sentence is to compare literally where you're at because you can get two sentences, right? And they specifically said in order to create a sentence, you can even imitate the previous sentence within your new and latest sentence, right? That is basically to make your writing more interesting. It's like where you are mixing up the different kinds of sentences, especially based on the model sentences that you have read so far. All right. So when it comes to our new sentence, it says that we have a model sentence as well as a new sentence. And remember, we said that when it comes to our model as well as our new sentence, the model sentence is there to help to make writing even more interesting because now you can use of the model sentence and then you can mix and try different kinds of sentences, right? So, based on the model sentence, we can even get ideas for new kinds of sentences by imitating basically, let's say, model sentences or sentences that we have read or that you have read. And then also to imitate a model sentence, you need to first look at the form or the pattern. Ask what sort of words, phrases, or clauses the sentences use and what order they are in, and also then we create a new sentence making the same pattern. All right. We did that one. Let's go to our task. Let's go to our test where we are going to begin our test. April. And now, sorry about this. All right. So let's go to our test. So we're going to now look at our the two sentences, right? And then we're going to choose the basically what the correct sentence is, or let's say the order in of our sentences, right? So the model sentence first from Paul S. Bach's The Good Earth, it says that the shadowy figure of an old man appeared in the doorway holding his unbuttoned garments about him. And then if we were to create a new sentence by using the broken down method of creating a sentence, we can say we use the words and phrases to create a new sentence that matches the model. All right. And if we choose the correct one to match the model, we're going to say it is the steady trickle of an abandoned hose. It sparkled on the sandstone, mocking the thirsty flower bed just beside it. Which is the second one, which is the steady trickle of an abandoned hose, sparkled on the sandstone, mocking the thirsty flower bed just beside it. All right. Well done. Well done. So Thomas was 13 years old today, and never in his life had he been so far from home. All right. So the with our model sentence in the next one, it says Thomas was 13 years old today, and never in his life had he been so far from home. And our new sentence, right? If we create the new sentence and also put the blue strips in order, then we can start by saying Adam's sister had seemed a little tasty before, but only at the moment did the reason become clear to him. Oh, all right. So we say Adam's sister had seemed a little tasty before. So we can say Adam's sister had seemed a little tasty before. And now we say, but only at this moment did the reason become clear to him. And that is correct. We need to read the model sentence from Al Frank Baum's The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. It says, when the wicked witch looked out again and saw all her crows lying in a heap, she got into a terrible rage and blew three times upon her silver whistle. So we already have our model sentence, which is like when the wicked witch looked out again and saw all her crows laying in a heap, she got into a terrible rage and blew three times upon her silver whistle. Right? That is basically our model sentence. And remember, we said that when it comes to creating a sentence, right, you need to imitate let's say, a sentence, right, in order for you to create even another sentence. And if we start, we can say, after Katie peered inside and saw so many cats crawling over the food, she recoiled in disgust and ran out of the kitchen. So we can go with the second one. All right. And that is correct. So we basically said when it comes to sentence creations, right? We need to create a sentence based on the model, and the model sentence is a sentence that is given to us, right? And it can be from any author, it can be a book or whatever, right? And then whatever other new sentence or phrase that we make, so in order to create a new sentence or phrase, we need to create a sentence that matches our model or matches the sentence, which is the model sentence, right? And then the words have been jumbled up, right? And we specifically said that in order to make your writing more interesting, right, you need to imitate or try to mix different kinds of sentences, starting with the model sentence. Right? All right. So this is now the end of our lessons, grade 7 on sentence creation. All right. So we create sentences based on the model, right? So this is basically now the end of our lesson on grade sevens on creating sentences. And we see that when it comes to creating sentences, right, we need to imitate and we need to use our model sentence in order to guide us. All right, so this is the end of our lesson, grade 7. Thank you very much for joining. Till next time, goodbye.